Hey guys, and welcome to our video where I'm going to be comparing the MacBook Pro 2020 with Apple's M1 silicon chip versus a MacBook Pro from 2017 with Intel's i7 chip. Remember to like the video if you find it useful and subscribe to our channel as it really does help us to grow. The difference in price of these two laptops when new, this one comes in at $16.99 as it's got the 512GB storage and 16GB of RAM, and this one came in at $15.99 when new back in 2017. However, it is the base model without the touch bar, 128GB of storage, 8GB of RAM, but as I mentioned, the Intel Core i7 processor. Let's get into the unboxing of the MacBook Pro 2020. So unboxing the MacBook, opening it up the box. Inside, there's our MacBook. Pulling on the pull tab and putting this to one side for now. We have the 4 core indentations for the feet of the laptop. We have our Designed by Apple in California. We'll have our quick start guide, our warranty information, and our space grey Apple stickers this time around. We have our USB Type-C to Type-C charging cable. We have the wall plug connector for the UK, and we have the power adapter. And it's nice to see here that these power adapters and the wall plug is covered in a paper-like as opposed to plastic wrappers. So comparing these two MacBooks on paper, to start off with, the design is identical. They both have the same chassis, they both have the same screen, 13.3 inches, with the wide P3 colour gamut and 500 nit brightness. They do have different keyboards. So the new MacBook has got Apple's new Magic keyboard, whereas the old MacBook has got the old MacBook keyboard, which people didn't particularly like, without the touch bar, whereas the new MacBook has got the touch bar and the Touch ID. They've got the same size trackpads. They've got the same Thunderbolt 4 USB connections. They've got headphone connections on the left side. They've got the same 58 watt-hour battery. So they are pretty similar laptops. However, the main difference is that the 2020 brand new MacBook Pro has got Apple's silicon chip, whereas all of the MacBooks, and this one in particular, it's got Intel's chip from 2017. It's a 7th gen processor and it's an i7. To start off with, we're going to compare the performance of these two devices. Now, before we start any performance tests, both the devices have got 100% full battery, and both of the brightnesses of both MacBooks are set to full, with Bluetooth switched off and no other programs running in the background. So after we finish the performance test, we can have a look at the battery difference to see what the efficiency of the new Mac M1 chip versus Intel's older chip. The first performance test we're going to run is a Geekbench, so let's get these running now. Running, and that one's running. Now that the Geekbench 5 score is finished, let's have a look at the scores. As expected, the Apple M1 chip, as I'm sure you've seen lots of other Geekbenches for this chip, got a single core of 1735 and a multi-core of 7562, and the Intel got a single core score of 971 and a multi-core score of 2281. So as you can see from this result for the Geekbench, the Apple Silicon chip is much faster in both single and multi-core. The next benchmark test that we're going to run on both these laptops is Cinebench R23. I do have the most up-to-date versions of Cinebench on both these laptops, so this means that we do have the version which is optimized for the Apple Silicon. So let's start them now. Now the single core test of Cinebench R32 is finished. On the Mac M1, we've got a score of 1515, and on the Intel i7 from 2017, we've got a score of 1032. Again, the Apple M1 outperforms the Intel here. So the Cinebench multi-core score has now finished. The score on the Apple M1 is 7767 points, and on the Intel from 2017 is 2544 points. So again, clearly on the multi-score, the Apple M1 performs much better than the Intel i7. Should note here that the Intel i7 is only a dual-core computer. Another thing to make a note of was within 30 seconds, the fan on the Intel MacBook came on at full speed, whereas throughout the whole 9-minute test, the fan didn't come on the Apple M1 chip at all. Next, we're going to run the Unigine Heaven graphics test to test the integrated graphics of the Apple M1 versus the integrated graphics of the Intel i7. Let's run the test. Now that the benchmark is finished, we can see that the Mac M1 has got a score of 2090 with an FPS of 83, and the Intel has got a score of 833 with an FPS of 33.1, and again, the Intel Mac is hot to touch and the fan has come on. Finally, we're going to do a Blackmagic disk speed test to test the read and write speeds of the SSDs inside both these laptops. Starting the test. Now that the SSD speed test is finished, we can see that the 2020 SSD from the Apple M1 has got a write speed of 2854 megabits per second and a read speed of 2859 megabytes per second, and that the 2017 Intel MacBook has got a write speed of 599 megabytes per second and a read speed of 2301 megabytes per second. So again, the Apple M1 wins this test. Finally, just to make a point, before starting all of these benchmarks, they were both at 100% battery with maximum screen brightness and all of the programs closed. At the end of running all of the benchmarks, which you should have seen the results for now, the Mac M1 chip has got a battery percentage of 78% left, pretty good, and it's not particularly warm to the touch. And the 2017 Intel MacBook has got a battery percentage of 10% remaining, much less. Should be noted that this isn't quite an apples to apples comparison, as I previously mentioned, this is a 2017 MacBook, so obviously the batteries will have degraded significantly over 3 years of use. However, a percentage difference of 68% is significant in this case. So as I've mentioned, other than the different CPUs inside these laptops, the main difference between them here is the keyboard, as they both have the same screens, the same screen brightnesses, the same Thunderbolt ports, USB-C 2 on the left side of the machines on both of them. They both have the same trackpads, they both have the same battery size, however, not the same battery life as mentioned previously. And this one does have the touch bar and the touch ID, as opposed to this one not having the touch bar or the touch ID. The MacBook 2020 also has a Wi-Fi 6, whereas the 2017 one has got a Wi-Fi 5. And the MacBook 2020 also has Bluetooth 5.0, whereas this 2017 model has got Bluetooth 4.2. In terms of the keyboard, we've got the new Magic Keyboard as opposed to the Butterfly keyboard. Now in the 3 years of using the Butterfly keyboard, maybe I've got lucky because there are lots of issues reported, but I haven't had any issues. None of the keys have stuck. I've not had any dust stuck under the keys. I've not had any repeating letters when typing. I've had zero issues with it whatsoever. However, the new keyboard is definitely an upgrade. It's a lot quieter to type on. Maybe you can hear that. I know I need to upgrade my microphone on these videos. It feels a lot nicer to type on, whereas this is very, very clicky. This has got a slight bit of sponginess to it, which is just more satisfying to use. The keys feel better built, so they don't move around as much when you're resting on them. And of course this has got the touch bar. You might not like the touch bar, but I personally am a fan of it. In terms of the speakers, I found when listening to music on both of these laptops, the speakers to me sounded identical. At all volumes, I couldn't hear any difference between them. That's not a bad thing, as I previously found that the MacBook speakers are some of the best Mac speakers you can find in a laptop. In terms of the webcam, both of them have got 720p webcams. However, there is supposedly a new image signal processor in the new MacBook. However, I've found that the pictures are pretty much identical. This is disappointing that they didn't update the MacBook to the 1080p webcam, but perhaps they're saving that as just another little upgrade that they will mention in the later iterations of the new Apple Silicon MacBooks. So to conclude, I do think that the new Apple Silicon MacBook is a very powerful and capable laptop, as you've seen from the benchmark scores compared to the 2017 i7 dual-core processor. I do much prefer the keyboard. I like having the touch bar. It comes with more storage space. However, that was my choice when purchasing the laptops. And it's just a great all-round laptop. However, I will not be changing my work life to the new MacBook. The reason for this being the lack of Windows support. Being an engineering student myself, I need to use a lot of programs which are only specific to Windows applications, such as graphing programs and CAD programs. So I'm currently unable to run these programs on the new Apple Silicon, whereas I can run them through Boot Camp on the old 2017 Intel laptop. And for this reason, I don't think that the new MacBook Apple Silicon laptop is suitable for me. There are some workarounds for this, so there's some applications such as Crossover 20. However, I found that when using CAD programs through Crossover 20, they didn't perhaps open particularly well. They didn't run particularly well compared to the native Windows in the Windows Boot Camp. And I found that it was more of an inconvenience. So I didn't really want to pay £1,500 for a laptop that was going to give me an extra inconvenience. If, on the other hand, you're not interested in using Windows applications and you do want the latest laptop that Apple has to offer, I would highly recommend this new Apple MacBook for you. Please remember to like the video if you find it useful and subscribe to our channel if you want to see more content, as it really does help us to grow.